Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aiden,
And I'm Casey.
and we are getting ready to watch the Cannons once again. We're here with the Red Legion. We'll talk to them in a few minutes about the Cannons' upcoming game against the Carolina Chaos, Saturday, 8:30. Wrapping up the weekend in San Diego. So glad they don't have the 11:30 start. The Atlas do the night before. It's the Atlas and shoot, it's not the who is it?
Atlas and Archers.
Atlas and Archers, yeah. Definitely easier for the Archers fans than the Atlas fans. I can't think the Stampede are going to be having a watch party for that one. So glad 8:30, still a pretty reasonable start time. Be finished by 10:30 if it doesn't go to OT. And 10:45 if it does go to OT. So yeah, we'll definitely be up and watching live at West End Johnny's. Although it might be Jack might be in bed by that time. We'll see. Um, all right, I guess Casey, anything else before we kick it over to the Red Legion?
Just thank you guys for coming on with us. The last three times I think is that we played the Chaos, we unfortunately lost. But
Well,
I think
they got him in the regular season, the last week of the regular season, and then the Chaos got them. Yeah. Yeah, the Cannons, I mean, they're a tough defensive team. We definitely talk about that. That's been the strength of them for a while. It's certainly the strength of them now. Um, yeah, let's kick it over to the Red Legion. Thank you to Ben and the world famous Carolina Reaper for coming on, talking about the Carolina Chaos as we get ready to preview the Cannons game against them this Saturday night at 8:30. Ben, Reaper, how you guys doing?
Good, man. Just
Good, man.
sweltering
Good.
down here.
Yeah, I know it was this heat wave. We hit like 101, 102 in Boston. What was it like down in Charlotte?
Heat index I saw last was 109.
All right, that's honestly
So,
not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Feels like an oven.
Yeah.
it really does.
Yeah, was that the same weather you had for your homecoming weekend as well?
Yeah, pretty
Not.
close.
I mean, not quite as hot, but yeah, very close. Yeah.
Brutal, brutal. I hope you guys had plenty of water. All right, I guess let's just start with how you guys are feeling about the chaos season so far. I think there weren't maybe a lot of high hopes for the team going into the season. Had a couple good results, but obviously that thrashing at the hands of the Whip Snakes. What's the vibe down there for the team?
I
Reaper, kick it
mean,
off.
it's about like every other sport at this point. You know, it's we were saying at the last watch party. You know, we kind of looked out at each other. We were like, man, they're really getting into that Carolina sports mentality. It seems like.
That's
Yeah, man,
tough.
it's hitting right
Yeah,
away.
yeah. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong though. The Charlotte Checkers have done decently well in the AHL though, right?
Oh yeah, they just lost in the finals in 6 games to the Abbotsford Canucks.
Okay.
Um, the Checkers are like the one bright spot. We also have the USL Super League, Carolina Ascent that they won their supporter shield in women's soccer, and then immediately got bounced in the semifinals, which tends to be the case for any team that has any kind of success in Charlotte. Is you're going to have a good regular season and then kind of peter out once the playoffs come. But the Checkers have been good. They actually won the Calder Cup back in 2019. That's the most recent championship that Charlotte has had, and really, you have to go back decades to find another like higher level professional sports championship in the city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got the Chaos got you one in 2021 as well. I know they weren't in Carolina at
It,
the time, but you can.
yeah, that's the debate. Is that can you count it?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
put an
won.
asterisk next to that one.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know the Whip Snakes are counting 2019 to 2020. That's for sure.
You can put
So
asterisks next to those too.
yeah. I feel like you guys should claim 21, especially as who knows what the next couple seasons are going to look like for you. What are I guess the defense mostly returns. Um, the offense, Jackson Iker's certainly been a bright spot, but what are you guys seeing as like the issues for the chaos that's got you, that 14 goal loss last week?
Man, I think for me, the biggest thing is just like the lack of identity on this offense. Like, there's a lot of new faces on this team. I think everyone had extremely low expectations coming into the season. New coaching staff, a lot of new faces, some young guys, playing some big roles out there. And I think it's just offense has not really had anything clicking. You brought up Jackson Iker. He's had some great plays, some good games. Same with Charlton Beatties, coming over from the box game. He brings a lot of physicality and a lot of force to that offense. But the way I see it is we got 5 or 6 guys that could realistically rotate through that attack line. So it's tough to really just get anything going there when it's a revolving door right now. Defense has been about what you'd expect, a little bit lower the past couple games, especially in Maryland. They definitely did not look like the team that was playing fresh in that game, which was disheartening. And seeing Blaze pull himself 2 games in a row is out of character for sure.
Yeah, that was super surprising to me. Just, the defense had been such a strength of that team for so long, right? Like, they held Boston to 4 goals the last time they played, and it's most of the same personnel returning. Um, do you think it's just they're seeing so many shots that eventually guys get tired and break down? Do you think it's like I don't know, like I think a lot's been made of the short stick group maybe not being up to snuff with some of the others in the league and just kind of getting burned in the midfield?
Uh, I think yeah, it's definitely they're just seeing way too many shots. We're having to depend on Blaze way too much. That it's just eventually it's just going to get worn down, and our shot efficiency I feel like was really poor against the Whipsnakes too. Like even when they got shots, they weren't really good shots, or they were just like straight into the goalie and just
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing too is that I feel like we can't win a face off to save our lives. And when you start every play, on the defense, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, I did also want to ask, do you think we've seen the last of Nick Rowlett in a Chaos jersey?
Kind of hope so, honestly.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
was Reaper. You kind of nailed it. I was just about to touch on face-offs there. It's like, if you guys played PLL fantasy, my face-off strategy is always who's going against Rowlett that day.
That was mine as well. Yeah. I said that in our
Hey,
battery group chat.
it's profitable. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's go back to the well on that one. But I'm excited to see Ignacio get some reps there. I think he did well against Nardella. Um,
Yeah, I'm looking at the
really,
numbers. He did quite well for himself, above 50%.
Hmm.
So that's got to be a bright spot for you guys.
mm,
Probably the only one you could take out of that game.
pretty much.
yeah.
Um,
Well, Hilt's got his point streak extended. That was about the only positive tweet I think that the Chaos had.
yeah. So is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he
It's a
scored in
bad
every
day
game in
when.
college, right?
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now he scored in every game he's played as a pro.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm if that's the only goal the Chaos get, I'm fine with that continuing this weekend, but wouldn't be too sad if it came to an end. Although I did have him on my fantasy team last week. I did not do well.
You and me both. That was the first time I ever started Blaze. That was
Yeah,
a
I had
mistake.
Blaze too.
Oh,
Oh man, that goose egg was tough.
Yeah. Yeah. That was we haven't talked about fantasy too much on this podcast. We did Casey did real bad 2 weeks ago. I did better, but still not good. Um
I did great this past week.
all right.
There you go. You got to start a trend somewhere.
Yeah. Um
The week before that, I think I had 46 points because I did have Blaze as my goalie. It was
Mm,
bad.
yeah.
moment of
Yeah.
silence for that one.
Hmm.
Yeah. So thinking ahead to this, like to this matchup with the Cannons specifically, what type of things are you worried about from the Cannons, that you think will cause problems, or what do you think the Chaos can or will do well?
Man, I feel like there's a lot to be worried about in that matchup, honestly. Inside source, I'm hearing the Chaos are rolling a very similar lineup to what we saw last weekend, which, if I'm a coaching staff watching that game, I'm scratching my head on that one. You know, Face-offs was kind of the bright spot in that game, which was a first for us in,
Mm.
a few seasons at this point. But the Cannons can really attack you from anywhere. If Asher Knowlton gets a matchup he likes, put him down for an assist pretty easily. You got some stretch shooters with Campbell and Holman there, and if Blaze isn't seeing the ball well the past couple of weeks, that could really bite him quick.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I was really surprised to see Levi Virch with a short stick last week. Do you have any insight on, is it just trying to get like younger and more athletic at that position? Did they just feel, yeah, I don't know. What was the reasoning behind that? And do you think we're going to see that again? Because, they drafted him as he was one of the top LSM prospects, maybe the top long ball prospect in this current draft or this past draft.
Yeah, I think that kind of follows the chaos trend that we've seen so far this year. And started with the draft, we've just kind of been scratching our heads. I heard that the draft was kind of looking more future state. Maybe a couple rumors that haven't quite surfaced yet that will be some big changes on the team coming forward. But I think everyone was surprised to see him with a short stick. I think his box background is kind of what led them to that. But you're really putting a lot of weight on Troy Ray's shoulder to that point, which he's been amazing. Troy Ray has definitely been
Yeah.
all-star worthy in my opinion. But to draft Verge that high and then give him a short stick, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, you said aside from the faceoffs in last game with Inacio, Troy Ray I think has probably also been the biggest bright spot for the Chaos. Well, him, Iker, and then hopefully now Inacio. He's just been unbelievable, and I feel like if he is a monster game, he's definitely someone who it feels like can take over the defensive side of the ball and also push it. I think he's got like 4 or 5 career 2-point goals, and I'm sure a
Mhm.
bunch of ones to go with that. Um, where do you feel like if the Chaos are gonna win this game, like how is that gonna happen for the Cannons? Is it gonna be like frustrating that offense, getting them to 4 goals again? How do you think they manage to score on what hopefully is going to be an improved defense for the Cannons now that Kilty's healthy?
Rip, you want to jump in on this one?
I mean, like I said, I mean, you're more X's and O's than I am, brother. Um,
It's all
I
good.
mean,
Not go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I think kind of, in what you were saying there, it's going to be a real slow grind on that one. If we can limit the transition, not let Tucci get hot because hopefully Inacio, like you said, it starts to show a difference at the dot there for us. And the Cannons don't play make it take it. Hopefully we get something going on offense and just win something. It's going to be low scoring like an 8-7 if the Chaos can pull something out here.
Yeah, this it definitely has the makings. It kind of feels like a first to 10 wins type of game. Who knows,
Absolutely.
maybe someone doesn't even get to 10, like you said. I mean, we saw Outlaws and Dogs play 9-7 earlier this year. Cannons won 9-8. Like I wouldn't be surprised seeing something like that. And that feels like that's definitely, I mean, shoot, what was the final score of their one win so far? Um,
That's a good question.
that was week. Oh, it was
In Charlotte, it was Friday in
oh,
Charlotte.
12-9. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
The career the
yeah,
career game
record
for
game
Blake.
for Blaze. Yeah,
Yeah. And that definitely feels like you're going to
yeah.
need a performance like that to
Absolutely.
stay in these games. Um, something that we've been talking about a lot is Asher not looking like himself as a goal scorer, or as someone who's able to like get to that spot and put it through. He's only got, I think, 3 goals this year. Um, he's still up in the league in points because he does have a bunch of assists. So I don't remember in previous years, if you do, whether it's been Newman or Rowlett on him. And I guess how are you feeling about that matchup, whichever guy it is? Because he doesn't quite look as dominant as he has in past years, but um, if he's able to get his eyes up and passes a feeder. I mean, he had some fantastic crossfield passes in the most recent game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if I'm Coles, I'm putting Newman on him. You got to put big on big. You need someone that can try to limit him carrying the ball as much as possible. If Asher has time with his hands free to survey the field, he's gonna tear you apart at that point. That's when Holman's getting his step downs. I'm assuming they're rolling McAsee out there as well, and that kid's got a catch and release cannon. So, if you let those stretch shooters get their hands free with Asher just surveying the field, you're in trouble. So I'd really like to see Newman in that matchup. Really like to
Yeah.
see him in Asher's hands, pressing out early and often.
Yeah. Just a quick side note. How good did it feel to see Jared Newman hit a two-pointer again?
That,
Sigh of
that
relief. We needed that.
right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah.
I know. I mean, he took it felt like that was one of the biggest stories of 2019, the first year of the league. And then I don't think he's hit one maybe since 2020. So, um, I was definitely excited about seeing that one too, even though I believe it did come in a loss, I think. But
Mhm.
Yeah, against the Redwoods, I think he had two in that game actually.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. Again, hope we don't see that. Colin Kirst has been pretty good against two-pointers in his career. Gave up a weird one to TJ Malone last week, but
hmm
um,
Yeah, that was like
21
time
miles.
expiring in the first half or something. That was pretty fluky, but
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, that's got to be something that comes up in the Zoom meeting this week is just making sure everyone's on the same page. Um, Casey, any things that you wanted to ask? I know I kind of accidentally dominate these conversations. We just love talking lacrosse, but you had sent some questions before we started, maybe more geared towards the Reaper.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna bring up some of those questions that I asked. I've never talked to the Reaper before. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Ben.
nice to meet
Uh,
you.
let's
Local
see.
legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, let's see. So my new thing is I've gotten into trying Chat GBT. And so I plugged in, what I should ask the Carolina Reaper.
Right.
And it knew exactly who you were.
That's how you
I
know you
was
made it right there.
Right.
I did not expect it to be that accurate. I was like, "Oh my God." So it gave a lot of funny questions like who's the spiciest player on the field? Um
I mean, it's gotta be Blaze. I mean, right?
his
Like,
name.
right? Yeah.
Let's see. If you weren't repping Carolina, where would your fire burn next?
I don't. It's so weird. Because a lot of people assume that I'm from Charlotte. I actually grew up in Ohio. I've been living in Charlotte for 20 years now. I was not a huge sports fan growing up. Where I grew up, like we were just surrounded by awful teams. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, so it was like Detroit was 45 minutes north of us. Cleveland was 2 hours east of us, and just I never really got into sports until I came here. The year I moved down here um, was the year after the Panthers lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots in Super Bowl 38. And so like you couldn't help but get like caught up in the hype that this town had for sports coming off of a Super Bowl appearance. And it started off with that. And so it's just been growing into this thing where I'm so into Charlotte sports now that I couldn't really imagine repping any other like location or geographic, region or anything. I mean, I do have a little bit of love for the minor league teams that I grew up going to, like the Toledo Mud Hens and the Toledo Walleye, which is ECHL hockey team. But other than that, it's all Carolina for me. It's all Chaos, Panthers, Hornets, Charlotte FC, Hurricanes, and just representing all the teams in town here, especially teams like the Chaos that people would probably consider like niche
Mhm.
sports, and kind of bringing them more into giving them more attention with the other sports fan bases.
Yeah, and we were talking before we started, like just about how many people you've brought into becoming fans, or even if it's just one game they go to, just how many people you've gotten involved in that sports scene through being so recognizable and saying, hey, if you're willing to spend $20 to come to the Charlotte Checkers ECHL game, then spend another $20 and come to the Chaos or come to Charlotte FC. Um,
Right.
and I just think that's really, really cool. I think that's exactly what we're trying to do for our teams, right? For PLL and WLL. Hopefully, you guys will get a WLL team in the next couple of years here too. Um, so just, I mean, you have it's such a natural fit of like the Carolina Reaper being, the pepper and that great getup you've got. Yeah, and just congrats and I guess thank you for everything you've done to bring so many more people into being fans of, whether it's the PLL or, just all those sports because I think it's more fun the more people that are involved.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And and I tell everybody that when the PLL comes to town, to come check it out, spend a weekend. The biggest thing that kind of hurt us this year was the fact that at the exact same time that the Chaos were playing, the Savannah Bananas were playing at Bank of America Stadium.
Oh,
Like
Yeah,
literally at the exact same time, both nights.
that is
And
tough.
so there was and they sold out both nights at Bank of America Stadium. Like it's become a joke around town here that the Bananas are outselling the Panthers in their own stadium. You know, um, so that was the one thing that kind of you know I we had a lot. There was a lot of people that were interested in coming to the Charlotte homecoming from these other fan bases. We actually did a thing with the PLL. It was me, a few members of the Red Legion. Michael Harrison was there. Our friend Gary came along as well, and then I brought some super fans from the other sports fandoms. I
Hmm.
brought Cat Daddy, who is a big Carolina Panther fan. I brought La Muerte, who is a really iconic Charlotte FC super fan. And we came out. We went to American Legion and we met with Jack Posey and Jules, and we spent the day with them. And we shot this for like an hour and a half. We shot a whole bunch of things to be shown during the homecoming weekend where we were basically it was me, La Muerte, Cat Daddy, and we were explaining to them the Charlotte sports culture, and we were kind of like saying, we're going to work you guys into this culture. One of the things that we brought up was drums are huge on for all of our teams. We have Michael with the drum for the Chaos, the Panthers, the big pomp and circumstance before every game is we have the keep pounding drum, which is usually some local celebrity or sports hero or something like that pounds it as they come out the tunnel. And then of course Charlotte FC has a whole drum line that plays during our marches to the match. And like I said, we spent an hour and a half filming all this stuff, explaining it. They were going to show it, and then Jules got released,
Yeah.
and so it was like all of that was gone.
hmm.
And but that was one of the things that I really was like telling them. They were like, "What's something that we should do?" I was like, "Kind of bridge the gap of all these different sports fandoms and
Mm.
kind of bring them all into this scene. Instead of trying to be a part of the Charlotte sports scene, let's bring the Charlotte sports scene to the PLL." And like I said, it would have been nice if we had been able to use it, but circumstances.
Yeah. How did you guys feel about Jules getting cut at the time, and how do you feel about it now that the offense does look kind of directionless?
I mean, I it was kind of surprising, I think, but at the same time, I don't know how much more effective we would be with him. I
Mm.
guess I don't. I kind of. I mean, if Ben wants to correct me if I'm not speaking right, but it just seemed like one of those things where it was where the new regime was kind of just saying this is how we're going to do things. We're kind of changing things, and you're not part of our plans moving forward, I guess.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me was, kind of like Reaper touched on, they had him out here. They were going through the whole Charlotte Sports Day, all that stuff, just to release him. Like that just seems like a big oversight on the
Right.
squad, on the league, all that type of stuff. But from an X's and O's standpoint, I understand the move. Honestly,
Yeah.
you got the fresh legs with Iker, Charlotte Meaties has been great. Like you have a lot of different guys rotating through attack. Like I really didn't see a role for him personally.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. It feels, I think it seems to me like, especially for lefties rather than righties, that there just are fewer spots to go around, right? Like attack, it's usually just one lefty, and then a second righty at X. And, um, Jules again has done a good job. Like we talked about Ryan Drenner before we started recording. I'm always down to talk about Ryan Drenner. Um, but Jules as well started as an ex-attackman. The what Redwoods bring on Rob Pennell. He's obviously going to play ex-attack. So Jules does a pretty good job of reinventing himself as a midfielder. But I don't know. I think that for me, honestly, was like the point where his career kind of flipped, where he went from being like the alpha dodger, like big initiator, to being like a secondary piece, and it just seemed like he never quite clicked with that. And I still feel like he'd be a good contributor on the Chaos offense. I mean, hard to say they would score fewer points if he was in the lineup than they did against the Whipsnakes. Um, but yeah, we see this a lot in regime changes. That the group that the previous regime brought in is not necessarily beloved or kept around by the new one. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, hopefully he finds a spot somewhere soon. He's certainly still a professional caliber player in this league, but uh,
Absolutely,
yeah, it's tough. I mean, we'd love to see the rosters expand a little bit too. We've talked about that on this podcast before.
for sure.
19 guys for a whole game is a lot of running.
Yeah.
Did we talk at all about the absence of Josh Byrne?
Oh, how have we not talked about Josh Byrne yet?
Yeah, I mean, first there was Dane Smith and then Josh Byrne.
And Ian
How,
McKay as well, too. I mean, not that
yeah.
he's as important necessarily as Josh Byrne, but he's also had some great moments both on the field and trash talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough one. I mean, I'm a huge Burn fan. Love him in the indoor game. He kills in the NLL every year. And, last year he was kind of our only offensive producer majority of games. That playoff game was ugly for everyone, but late season stretch, like, the offense flows through Burn. So when that was announced, that was a tough one to swallow there because already looking at regime change. You're looking at fresh faces all over the place. You're hoping to have that one steady, stable source on your offense. And when Byrne was gone, I was like, dang, we were already looking tough, and now it's like, eesh. But you
Yeah.
bring in guys like Silstrop, bring in Zawada, Iker. Realistically, with how bad the offense looked on Saturday, it's tough, or Sunday, I guess it's tough to really notice any absence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you hope some of these guys will come into their own as they get bigger spots. I know Silstrop had some amazingly clutch moments at Denver. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Ross Scott looked great last year as a rookie. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, Iker obviously looks like a stud. Um, but I think, yeah, when Josh Byrne announced that he was not playing the PLL for the foreseeable future, if ever, that kind of felt like that was the moment where I was like, oh, the Chaos are not going to be good this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a body bag at that point.
Yeah. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because this is the only time that our two teams will play unless they meet in the championship game. Um, and then it would be past this. Who do you feel like, or do you feel like there'll be like pieces sold off at the trade deadline? I know if you don't know whose contract is up in 2025, that's a little tougher to answer off the top of your head. Um, Let me see if I can find some contract info real quick. Definitely should have prepped this question before I asked it. Uh, let's see. Okay, nope, that's the Cannons, not the Chaos. Um, oh damn, Craig Chick signed. Um, so we've got Aslanian signed through 2025, Jared Newman, Glasini, Kaut, Perkovic, Resch. Oh no. Yeah. So all of those guys signed only through 20, or they were the people who re-signed new 1 year deals. I mean, Newman's name definitely jumps out as the biggest one on that list. Assuming the Chaos stay at the bottom of the West, do you feel like there's any chance he doesn't finish the season with the Chaos if they try to really rebuild? Or do you feel like he's got to be a Chaos lifer if possible?
I
Me
think it'd be pretty
personally,
foolish. Go ahead.
uh, I was gonna say me personally, I'd love it if he stayed with us, for the future. Um, but I mean, I also know that it's it in sports, it's always what value do you bring, and having uh like a fan favorite doesn't really bring you anything as far as like production. So if you can get something for that guy, if you can get something big, if you can get more than what you think he's actually worth because of the fact that he comes with that kind of uh aura, I guess, then go for it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
personally, I'd love it if he stayed with us. He's one of my favorite guys on the squad.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I would certainly prefer he stay with the Chaos. Of course, they also got to find a trade partner. I'm not sure who would need a poll unless someone, fingers crossed or knock on wood, whatever, gets hurt. Hopefully, everyone stays healthy. So that's another half of it. But yeah, I don't know. The PLO trade deadline is interesting because 6 teams out of the 8 make the playoffs, so kind of everyone feels like they're in it. I think Conrad was the only notable person who got moved to the deadline last year, but. Um, I don't know. I mean, I also, the PLL wants to be one of these big, real professional sports leagues, and big trade deadline day drama is one way to do that. So I feel like Newman getting dealt would be a pretty big story. So I'm not rooting for it, but I think it would be good to generate buzz. And I don't think the Cannons need him, so I'm not just rooting out of self-interest there.
That's fair.
Yeah. Or I don't know, maybe. This is crazy speculation, but just given the Army service commitment things, do you think there's any chance Jackson Iker gets dealt? Or do you think if there's any chance they can hold on to him, they gotta?
Yeah, he's definitely been a hot topic. I think, like you mentioned with the Army service, it could be interesting to see how his career is handled by some teams. I'd say they'll probably take a look at those attack units, give everyone, I mean, it's a short season, you got a small sample size to begin with, but with that many faces rotating through the attack, if they don't find a spot that they love for him, and given his other commitments, I could see that being a move they make.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I think we should wrap it up here shortly. So I'd want to finish with a couple predictions from everyone here. So I guess first for the 2U Red Legion, who do you think plays at attack this week for the Chaos?
Reaper, you got it.
I don't.
No
I'm
worries. All
sorry.
right.
Um,
I mean,
I
they
mean, that says it
drafted
all.
Hiltz early. Like, you got to roll Hiltz back out there. They got him out there
yeah,
his first game. He's going to sit on that lefty wing and do his thing. Um, I mean, right now, I don't see how you don't keep Iker back there. And personally, I'd like to see Charlon Beatty, so that would be my pick.
Yeah. That would be, Hilton and Sherilyn Beatties are both lefties, I think. So would you
Mhm.
put Sherilyn Beatties, I guess, at X and then Iker on the wing?
That's how I'd play it.
Yeah.
I know Charlon Beatty can kind of operate from everywhere, and he's a dynamic dodger. He can feed. I don't have any issue throwing a lefty at X.
Cool. As a fellow lefty myself, I certainly agree with you and appreciate that a lot. Um, and I guess maybe we'll just end it with some score predictions from everyone here. Um,
Reaper, what you think?
I don't. I don't want to sound like a homer, and but I feel like even in a loss prediction, I'm still going to end up sounding like a homer because if I say like 8-10 Boston, I feel like I'm giving us a lot of credit there. But I'm gonna go. Let's. I'm just gonna say 8-10, and it could be us, could be you guys.
yeah, that sounds about right, honestly.
I think, we kind of see with the parity in this league week after week that there's so much talent on every roster. And, Carolina hasn't really clicked yet. And I think if they have a chance to stay in this game, it's going to have to be low scoring. But I take Boston probably like 11-7 in that one.
Oh wow. All right. I just want to check the PLL app, see what the so at 93% of people picking the Cannons currently.
Sounds about
Which
right.
Sounds
is
about right.
yeah. Certainly the biggest one of the weekend. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's been the biggest one all season as well. But I can't confirm that. Um, yeah, I think I agree with you on a lot of points. Like, there's absolutely a chance the Chaos win this game. If the Cannons lay an egg, if fluky things happen, the that whole roster is still very, very good across players. It just hasn't clicked for them the same way it has for some of the other teams in the league. I like the Reapers 8-10 prediction. Um, I think I'll give our offense a little bit more credit though. I think I'll say 12-8 Boston with exactly one 2-point goal.
Well, I hope that, just for the sake of the game, I hope that the Chaos get a little bit more fire in them, after last week's score. I hope they try to come back with a little bit of a vengeance, but not too much. I'm gonna say Cannons take it. I'm gonna say like 14-9.
Oh, all right. I would love that.
She's
Um,
taking the over this weekend.
yep. Which let me just quick. I gotta think that game too has the smallest over under on
Yeah,
Facebook.
22.5 this week, lowest total.
Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe hammer the under if you're a betting person on this game, or if you think the Cannons offense will still find a way to take the over. Ben Reaper, thank you both so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Best of luck in every game the rest of the season except this one. Um,
We
and
need it.
yeah, if we meet in the championship game again, we'd love to have you on, or we'll see you again on TV, I'm sure, and next season for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you again to the Red Legion, Carolina Reaper, and Ben for coming on tonight and talking about lacrosse and getting prepared for this weekend's matchup. Looking forward to seeing all that comes and watching our Cannons take that W.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I didn't want to say this when they were on there. I am sneaky worried. It feels like you only put up 4 goals the last time against a team. That might give you some confidence issues going into it. Because it is most of the same defense coming back. But certainly it's a much worse offense. And I think, these guys are professional athletes for a reason, so hopefully they're able to
Hmm.
block stuff like that out. Um, and yeah, hopefully we're um, Cannons will still be first in the East and get a little boost to that score differential too after, the Carolina Chaos gifted the Whip Snakes, looks like a good path to the number one scoring differential if they're able to win the majority of their games coming out. Certainly if they lose them out, I think that score differential will go away a little bit, but um, I don't know, it's the Whip Snakes, so you never can really count them out. Um, Yeah, so I guess that'll wrap it up for us here. Please do come out to West and Johnny's this Saturday at 8:30 or so, depending on if that first game goes a little long. But 8:30 against the Carolina Chaos. Obviously, if you love lacrosse as much as we do, watch the rest of the games too. They're all really going to be fun and exciting. Enjoy the sights and sounds of beautiful sunny San Diego as well. Taking that beautiful city for the weekend. So we hope to see you in person on Saturday, or I guess you will hear from us again Monday to recap that game. And until then, go Cannons.
Go Cannons!
Boom!
Boom!